Talk Radio.
Ground control to Major Tom.
We've been expecting you, Mr. Boyd.
His is the worst voice you will ever hear.
Will he offer me his teeth?
The Tommy Boyds Show will teach you nothing. Nothing.
Always read the label.
Nothing but iniquity and wickedness.
If you really bug me, then I'll say goodbye.
Hardly know where to start with this extraordinary, groundbreaking piece of information. As I say, it's not, as I mentioned a few moments ago, it's not confirmed yet, but I think when I reveal it to you, it really will hit you. A bolt from the blue, and yet one that you'd kind of known about all your life. It has to do with you and your parents, and you and your children if you have children. Let me remind you now the telephone number. It's free call 0500 1053 89. I would ask you first to consider whether you believe that this theory I'm about to outline makes sense. And secondly, what you consider should be the consequences in terms of the action that we take going forward as parents and children from this day hence. Okay, and the number again is free call 0500 1053 89. And I must admit, the reason I realised that I had believed this for some years, although now, as I say, we have some information, instinctively, was no more obviously evident to me than when I was watching Frasier. If you know the programme, fine. If you don't, it's a program about a psychiatrist whose brother is also a psychiatrist. There are a couple of namby-pamby, very effete academians. Their father is a beer-toting former cop who sort of drinks and swears and, you know, is a bloke. He's, you know, totally different from his two sons. And all the while I was watching Frasier, I thought to myself, that's a good basis for a sitcom, but it never happens in real life because children tend to take after their fathers rather than their mothers. I'd kind of noticed it. Anyway, in front of me we have the nitty-gritty, the fact of the matter. We're 3/4 of the way to showing that you listening to this, you are your father's child. You are your father's child, and you are your father's child. You are your mother's father's child. You are hardly, not at all, your mother's child. It looks as though, and it's impossible to put a figure at this stage on the proportion, but for the sake of argument, we're going to say you are between 90 and 95% the influence, the genetic influence of your father, your father's father, and even your mother's father. But the amount of influence that your mother has on the makeup of your DNA, which is who you are, not just what you look like, your build, your eye colour, your hair, your body structure, the way you walk, but the way you demean yourself, the way you carry yourself, almost the way you think. A great many of the ways in which you think are determined by the chromosomes provided to you by your father, in the case of dominant genes, and recessive genes in the case of your father's father, and your mother's father, but not your mother, and certainly not your grandmother's. They play virtually no part in you being who you are. Now, free call 0500 1053 89. I'm not going to be able to blind you with science because it's such a complex business. Genetics. Genealogy is tracing your ancestors. That's way beneath us this afternoon. We're talking about genetics. Genetics which were discovered by a monk called Mendel, who discovered that if you grow a pea from a tall pea and another tall pea, you get a tall pea. He discovered that if you grow a dwarf pea from a dwarf pea and another dwarf pea, you get a dwarf pea. But he also discovered that if you grow a pea from a tall pea and a dwarf pea, 3 times out of 4 you get a tall pea, the other time you get a dwarf pea. What you don't get is an in-between pea. So he discovered not only the whole business of genetics, he also discovered that there are these things, dominant and recessive genes. And the fact that he discovered it by experimenting with peas is neither here nor there. It applies to you and to me and your parents and your children, lock, stock and barrel. Okay. There was also a German anatomist called Caspar Friedrich Wolff, who discovered a number of crucial ground rules connected with genetics by carrying out breeding experiments using chickens. And once again, what he discovered applies to you and all of yours, even though the experiments were carried out about chickens. The big problem, however, that geneticists and doctors have is in working out what are the crucial influences and to what extent they are influences on you being either 50% your mum, 50% your dad, which is what I think we always thought you were. I did. Until I read this research, I thought I was about half my mum and half my dad, and so did you. And we look for my wife's traits in both our boys, and we assume that they are 50% her and 50% me, but according to this research, it simply isn't true. You can draw a line right through my dad and his dad and my wife's dad, but I'm afraid my wife, damn, it's a shame, but it's a fact, is hardly in there at all, not genetically speaking. Free call 0500 10 53 89, but very difficult for geneticists to prove it. And there's so much that still isn't known. Let me just quote you something about nucleic acid, which is the material that carries all this information and is fundamentally responsible for who you are. Nucleic acids, extremely complex molecules produced by living cells and viruses. Their name comes from their initial isolation from the nuclei of living cells. This only lasts a couple of seconds. Certain nucleic acids, however, are not found in the cell nucleus but in cell cytoplasm. Nucleic acids have at least two functions: to pass on hereditary characteristics from one generation to the next and to trigger the manufacture of specific proteins. However, how nucleic acids accomplish these functions is the object of some of the most intense and promising research currently underway. And that's what I've got in front of me now. Until recently, you could only use biometrics, I'm not going into what that is, in order to analyse the inheritance of traits in a population if you can't use breeding experiments, and they didn't think there were any breeding experiments that might show who's most important, the male or the female. The importance of the distinction between recessive genes and dominant genes lay in its stress on the fact that the only way to determine genotype is through breeding experiments. Over and over again. If you can't do a breeding experiment, you're never going to find out who's played the most important role in deciding what sort of a person is, the father or the mother. And then a penny dropped as a result of sport. For hundreds of years, men and women have bred horses, and those experiments must obtain to humanity. And those experiments have shown conclusively in millions of cases, and none have shown anything other than this simple fact. It is the sire of the horse, the father, who gives the horse's characteristics, totally. And it is the sire of the dam, the father of the mother, that provides any shortfall. It works for horses. It's known to work for horses. The argument goes, it's enough we need to go on to say that it works for human beings. Well, what does that sound like to you? And if that's true, that means that women have got to choose their partners in life with great care, because that's going to be their children. Whereas from a man's point of view, hardly matters who you marry. Your children are going to turn out the same. They're yours. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
Start your day with a
Weasel-faced fourth magnitude misfit from the 70s he is. On free call 0500 1053 89.
Yeah, I'm not playing down the role of women in bringing up children, because obviously they have a job to do. It's just that their influence, genetically speaking, on how the child is going to turn out appears to be almost minimal. Thomas is our first caller in this part of the programme, calling from Huddersfield. Thomas, hello.
Hi, Tommy. I don't agree with you on this for the genetic thing. I've just been doing about it in biology.
Yes.
And the mother actually does denote more DNA than the father.
No.
I've just done about it in biology.
Yes. I'm not sure whether you've got it completely wrong there.
Because
the mother does not donate more DNA material than the father. Thomas?
She does. Because we've just done about it in biology.
Yeah, so you've said. How much then?
It's about double the amount that the father denotes.
Donates,
yeah.
In what are we talking about here?
Well,
Chromosomes?
yeah,
Oh, chromosomes. How
Yeah.
many chromosomes are there then in a human cell?
23.
No, 46.
Is it?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
and
Well-
23 of those are provided by.
What? 23 by each, then?
Yes,
Yeah,
so 23 from the female and 23 from the male.
yeah.
So that doesn't quite tie in with your idea that the mother donates more DNA material, does it?
Not really, no.
No. So there we are with that one. Anything else?
Can I just have your autograph? Is that possible?
By all means, drop me a line at the usual address. Free call 0500 1053 89. The female, the ovum, the egg, the female contribution to the eventual human being is quite large. It's got a yolk and some white, if you like, and it doesn't move. And that's about the size of it. However, the male contribution to the person-to-be, the male gametes, are very small, admittedly, but they have a head, they have a neck, they have a tail, they have a purpose, they have instinct, they contain a food reserve, they possess centrosomes. You know what chromosomes are, you know what centrosomes are. The female egg does not. And, of course, the sperm, the spermatozoa, are motile. They can move around, they can swim, they can do stuff. Free call 0500 1053 89. Is it any wonder that there are greater influence over who that person is going to turn out to be than the mother? Stephanie calls from Surrey. Stephanie, good afternoon.
Hello. My father, I follow my father, so I half agree with you, except for the fact I copy my grandmother here on his side. Apparently I'm identical to her in the way I act, my personality, everything I've ever say. My joke, my sense of humour, everything is just like Granny. And yet she died when I was 4.5,
Yeah.
and I don't remember her.
No.
I've also inherited the same disease she had, so genetically I follow her.
Mm-hmm.
And then to make things even more complicated, my sister is identical to my mother. And she copies it. My sister and my mother don't need to speak. They are almost telepathic. They are so close and so similar in what they do. My father and I were, and he always said it was uncanny. He'd watch this little girl running around, and I was his mother.
Well, this is anecdotal evidence, and there's nothing wrong with that, because what we've seen with our own eyes is absolute truth to us, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes. It's not just me, but other people who knew Granny all say that I have got similar with my person, the way I move, the way I talk with my hands or whatever.
However, from the scientist's point of view, it doesn't amount to a row of beans, does it?
Except for the fact I've inherited her illness.
It doesn't amount to a row of beans. We have to deal in enormous quantities of information in order to find patterns and discover trends. That's where conclusions lie. You could be the case in point. You could be the exception that proves the rule. So we need to stack evidence. And we can't do that with human beings because we can't experiment.
They do, though, don't they?
No, they don't.
I think they do, but yeah.
Well, they don't. Whose
Okay.
brains have you got, your father's or your mother's?
Okay, yeah, my father's.
You see, there are lots of questions that would have to be asked. In all probability, your grandmother acquired her characteristics from her father and the male genes that went into making her.
Quite possibly, but I'm still very, very similar to copying her.
Yes. Well, you stick to your guns if you'd like to.
I'm going to.
Or you could learn something.
Okay, I'll stick to my guns.
Yeah, you will, won't you? Free call 0500 1053 89. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There is a good argument for listening.
Tommy Boyd Street Beat Symphony with DHL Worldwide Express. Join Tommy Boyd today for the country's leading forum on four-wheeled discursive debate and dialogue.
Talk Radio.
Driving down the motorway of no return on Tommy Boyd's Street Beat Symphony. Today from 2 with DHL, the world's #1 international express courier.
Shirley Bassey's new collection is the Diamond Casino, the 1998 KPMG commercial radio station of the year.
Tommy Boyd.
This is the central scrutinizer. It is my responsibility to enforce all the laws that haven't been passed yet.
We're passing on an early feed on some evidence which has come out from the world of genetics. It appears that the mother has a very small contribution to make to the makeup of the child and the adult that child grows into, and that it is the father and the father's father and even the father of the mother that contributes something like 90 to 95% of the material that determines what sort of a person, physically and possibly mentally, that person is going to become. But hey, girls, that doesn't mean you're incubators or pods or anything. No, we need you and we love you. You do a good job. Alan calls from Oldham. You're on Talk Radio. Hello, Alan.
Hello, Tommy. I think I have to disagree with you here. I've got two girls, and physically, one has a resemblance to me, and the other one has a resemblance to a grandmother. Through all photos, you look back and you can see the actual physical shapes and things like that of one. And same with me. Some say that they look more like my father, but one looks like the grandmother and one looks like me. Temperament-wise, one is exactly my temperament, sort of sulky and
miserable.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah,
stupid.
And the other.
I was just wondering.
Yeah, and the other is the wife.
Yes.
Which is placid, nice, and easygoing.
Have you got photographs of your grandmother's father?
No.
How do you know then that your daughter doesn't actually look like him?
Because I would have thought my grandmother didn't look like my grandmother's father. Her husband.
If that's your point of view, then you're really rather being deflected by the simple gender of the person concerned, aren't you? You've got a daughter who looks like you, so what makes you think that that her grandmother couldn't have looked like her father?
Well, we're just passing on the traits now, aren't we? You're saying my daughter will have my father's looks, or my looks, or his father's, or my wife's father's looks.
A free call 0500 1053 89. It's complicated, I grant you.
Hello.
I think I've got some kind of a handle on it. Peter's on the line from Dorset. Peter, good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy. I totally disagree.
There he is.
Well, I'm sorry about this, but, I mean, my dad was a hard-working man all his life. So was my mum. And he never drank. He never got into trouble, never got a parking ticket, never got nothing. I'm the eldest of 7, and yet I turned out like the black sheep of the family. Drinking, getting into trouble, and all the rest of it. I've now grown up myself. I'm in my 40s. I've got a lovely little boy, a lovely little girl, and they're nothing like I or my father.
Right.
So.
Well, how do you know that your children are your own?
How do I know? Because I know the milkman.
Yeah. And presumably, are you saying that you got your criminal tendencies and your alcoholism from your mother then?
No.
Well,
that's what I'm saying. I don't see how it can be in the genes.
What?
I think it's how the person's brought up.
How what can be in the genes?
This thing that you can inherit.
What thing that you can inherit?
Well, what makes a person like their father?
Look, it's only Stalin. It's only Stalin. Let me tell you, in the 20th century, it's only Stalin who thought that acquired characteristics could be inherited.
Is that right?
And you.
Well, not just me,
no, we're not talking about that today. We'll talk about Stalin another day. But you and Stalin have got something in common, you'll be pleased to know, Peter.
I doubt it very much.
Which is that the pair of you think that inherited characteristics can be passed on to future generations.
Isn't that what you just said, though?
Nope.
Like their looks, their traits, everything else?
Yeah, looks aren't acquired.
The father?
Yeah, have you acquired your looks? Or if so, how, apart from cosmetic surgery?
No, I think you get them as you grow older.
Yes.
Your looks change.
Yes,
you could be a beautiful baby, like yourself. You must have been a bouncing beautiful... I've seen you on the telly. You know what I mean? And you were a bouncing beautiful baby and you come into show business and everything else.
How tall are you?
But then I'm 5'8".
Would you like to be taller?
No. I'm happy as I am.
If you did want to be taller, do you suppose you could achieve it?
I doubt it very much.
No, exactly. And that's the sort of characteristic which is determined by your genes.
Yeah, but my dad was taller than me.
Not a hope. No, never in a million years. Never in a million years, Peter. Don't even try, mate. Don't even try. Jack calls now from Durham. Jack, we're discussing genetics.
Hello, Tommy.
Jack.
The point I'd like to make is that I remember once speaking to a dog breeder, a horse racing breeder, and he reckoned that if the child was female, a bitch, and if its characteristics were like its father, then it was good breeding. If it was a male, and the characteristics were more like its mother, then that also was better breeding.
Yes, it wasn't a very prominent trainer, this, was it?
Say that again?
It wasn't a very prominent trainer, this one.
I don't know.
No, you don't.
I don't know.
Who was this we're talking about anyway?
Oh, I don't even know his name. He just said that was, if you wanted good breeding,
yes,
that was what the dog breeders had observed. For what?
I don't think we'll get you in the dock to bring your evidence, really. The, who knows? The Council for Defence might have fun. Gareth calls now from Camberley. Gareth, good afternoon.
Hello, Tommy.
Genetics.
Yeah, you stated yourself 23 chromosomes
Yes.
from both mother and father.
Yes.
So therefore, how can you take the traits of the father when there's an equal donation from each parent? Surely it comes down to that 3 out of 4 Mendel chance.
Well, that's a little bit
dominant
naive.
and recessive alleles.
Yes, partly. Also the fact that the spermatozoa carry centrosomes, similar to chromosomes. The female egg has none.
No.
So there's a massive overload there in terms of the contribution made by the sperm over that made by the female egg.
But you need, as you stated, the 23 each.
Do you know what centrosomes are?
No.
No. Does it bother you?
Yes.
Well, why didn't you want to find out before you went back to your, if I may say so, pre-GCSE point that if each of the two contributors give 23 chromosomes, then it must be an equal contribution?
Because both are coming, because they're coming from either parent, aren't they?
Yes, except for the centrosomes, which come entirely from the male.
The purpose of which is?
Free call 0500 1053 89. I mean, horse racing is the 4th biggest industry in Britain. Anybody who knows anything about horse racing knows that for 400 years in this country, an enormous, very carefully controlled experiment has been taking place in breeding, in genetics, to make racehorses run faster and further, and be bigger and stronger, and more efficient, and win more prize money. And they have discovered, through trial and error, constant trial and error, that the only influence which matters is that of the male, is that of the sperm, is that of the sire of the horse and the sire of the dam of the horse. And in the past it's been shown that what experiments could be carried out to pursue genetics with plants and with chickens was valid for human beings. So is it not possible that what is known for a fact about racehorses, pretty high form of mammal life, can be applied to human beings? But can we see it with our own eyes? Free call 0500 1053 89. Difficult for me to comment because there's nary been a boy born in the Boyd family, a girl born in the Boyd family for 50 years. That's how strong the male gene is amongst us lot. John calls now from Manchester. John, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Afternoon, Tom. The passing on of characteristics, Tom, you know it's so strong that the sperm doesn't even have to be alive to pass on the male characteristics.
Now, I did not know that.
It's the Japanese experimented with the other big thing, cattle. You know, obviously use a bull to pass on a bull's characteristics, and they've done that breeding for hundreds of years.
Mm-hmm.
And they tried it with cattle on irradiating the sperm to kill it totally, and then injecting it by the fine needle into the egg. And the cow does become pregnant, and it still carries the male's characteristics according to what bull it took the sperm from. And now they've gone further with this, and they said because this works because the sperm is actually dead, but kept in a frozen condition after it dies, they want now to try and get mammoth sperm, which has been dead for God knows how long, but frozen in the right condition, inject it into a female elephant's egg, and in theory she should give birth to a mammoth, because it does work if you use African elephant sperm injected into an Indian elephant's egg. She gives birth to an African elephant, not a cross between an Indian elephant and an African elephant. She takes everything from the male African elephant's sperm. So it'll be interesting if they ever can find mammoth sperm in such good condition. Whether they will or not, I don't know.
You know your stuff. Are you in this field?
No, I'm just interested in it. I breed snakes, and you can breed them to specific colours along genetic lines.
You know, you make an important point. Sperm is an extraordinary... Well, is it an animal? Is it a human being? What status does sperm have? Do we know?
Well, apparently it doesn't even need the status of life, does it? The only reason it needs to be alive is to actually break into the egg itself.
I refer you to Schumacher. If it can die, it is alive, and therefore it is a living thing.
Yeah.
So is it an animal or a human being?
It can complete all its functions.
Does it have
without
any rights?
Being alive.
Does it have any rights? Do the animal rights people care
No.
about dead sperm? About sperm being irradiated?
Well, I don't. Do you?
Can it feel pain?
I don't know.
No. Look, we care about just about everything else, don't we? On this planet that lives and breathes, or just lives.
I think we care about things according to size.
They are an amazing creature, aren't they, sperm?
Yeah.
Do you know how many of them are released on each occasion?
In a human being?
Yes.
Oh, I'd have thought in excess of 2 million.
Up.
3.
Keep going.
4.5.
Keep going.
5.5, that's my final offer.
5.5 million sperm? No.
What's it?
More.
10.
10 million no, more.
13.
13?
Yeah.
More.
18,251,000.
And that is my final offer, Bruce. Between 200 and 300 million sperm are released by the male human on each occasion. Free call 0500 1053 89. Lisa calls from Manchester. Lisa, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We're discussing genetics.
I know. I think I understand what you're saying.
There.
And what you said about women have to be more careful about choosing their men.
Yes.
I think this might explain why women want to get married more than men do.
Aha.
And perhaps men shouldn't be getting married at all. I mean, obviously, if men don't get married, then no one gets married. Oh, excuse me. But you see what I'm saying?
Yes, I do.
Good.
I do. I can certainly see why it is an urge in women to marry.
So do I. Well, not all women.
No, not all women.
Okay.
Because their contribution to the future of the species is otherwise non-existent.
No, it's not non-existent. Like, the way you're talking about DNA, yes, I agree, and that could be non-existent. But after the genes are passed on, your environment counts a lot more than your initial DNA. For instance, you could have two twins, identical twins, have them living in completely separate environments, perhaps in a single-parent family, or one in completely different country, different climate.
Yeah.
And they will both be different when they grow up.
Lisa, thank you for your call. Free call 0500 1053 89. Scientists have conceded that they will never be able to carry out breeding experiments to discover just what is the proportion of influence between the father and the mother of the human child. But they have previously used experiments on plants and experiments on animals to draw conclusions which apply to human beings. If it is known, and it is known amongst horses, that it is the sire of the horse, the male, that makes almost the whole of the contribution to the end product, with perhaps a little bit of information topped up from the father of the mother of the horse. Could it be that the same applies to human beings? In which case, every single one of us is 90 to 95% a mixture of our father's father, and our mother's father, and that mum isn't hardly in there at all. Free call 0500 1053 89. It does mean that women do have to choose their partners in life very, very carefully. Emma calls from Worcestershire. Emma, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Emma.
Hello. Lovely programme, Tommy.
There.
I know quite a little bit about genetics, and I find this really interesting, this research. Not heard it before. I'm Caucasian as they come, over from the Vikings, I think, originally. My husband is Japanese. Now, we have many, many friends who are in mixed race, say, Caucasian relationships.
Yes.
Now, when they go to have children, as my husband and I have, when the father is of Semitic origin, the children tend to look very, very, very Asian in appearance.
Yes.
But when the mother is Asian,
yes,
they tend to look far more Caucasian.
Yes.
So this I've got to agree.
Yes.
There is obviously some dominance going on there. That's all I had to say, really.
I'm grateful, and that's the kind of evidence that needs to be drawn together and analysed.
I say I don't think it's, as conclusive as perhaps being portrayed.
No.
And as for some of these idiots who just don't listen to what is being said, yes,
I know. Very
we each
frustrating.
produce 23 chromosomes, but that is irrelevant. It is the dominance of those chromosomes.
I'm grateful for your call, Emma. Thank you. Sayonara.
Sayonara.
Lorraine is next, calling from Wrexham. Lorraine, you're on Talk Radio. Hello.
Hello. I don't agree with your argument, basically because you haven't explained why, if it's so difficult for the geneticists to prove their idea, why are you so sold on it?
Well, geneticists won't be able to prove the idea by carrying out breeding experiments with human beings, but people who are not geneticists, who are not doctors or scientists, have been carrying out breeding experiments on a huge scale, and their conclusions are quite conclusive.
Right.
Solid evidence, rock solid evidence. It's a question of whether or not the same applies to human beings.
Right, well, there's an awful lot of research to indicate that it doesn't.
What's that?
Well, there's an awful lot of research in Bangor University in North Wales on psychology of human behaviour.
And what's that?
Sort of demonstrates that basically because of language, it overrides an awful lot of sort of genetic effects. That we're not sort of living in the present as animals do. We can override it with language. We've got symbolic behaviour.
Yeah, I'm a bit lost, really. I'm not. Can you help me out? I'm a bit lost with what you're trying to say. Apart from the fact that you don't like the idea, but that's tough.
No, I don't. If it's backed up, then I would accept it.
Well, it is. Utterly.
No, it's not backed up with humans.
Completely. No, of course it isn't, and none is. But you accept Mendel's work, don't you?
I don't know about Mendel's work.
You don't know about Mendel's work?
No.
Well, what, do you know anything about genetics?
Not an awful lot, no.
You don't know anything about genetics?
Well, do you?
Yes.
Not an awful lot.
I know enough.
A bit more than me, but not an awful lot.
Hell of a lot more than you, actually.
Right.
Yeah, stacks more than you.
Right.
You don't know diddly squat. You don't like the idea because you're a woman and you think it diminishes the woman's role in creative... Yes, you do.
No, I don't.
You do.
All right,
yes,
well,
you do.
If you say I do that.
Well, it's clear that you do. It's just the trouble is you don't know you do.
Right.
Do you know anything about horse racing?
Horse racing, no, nothing at all.
No. No, well, that, you know... do you know
point,
anything about any part of this area of conversation at all?
Yeah.
What?
Psychology.
It's got nothing to do with it.
Yes, it has.
No, it hasn't. Trust me.
I think it has.
Well, it hasn't.
Well...
Because horse breeders are not interested in the psychology of the horse.
It has, because you're generalising from animal species to human species, and you need to know about psychology for that.
No, you don't.
Go because the baby's crying.
Yes, I can see that. No, you don't. No, otherwise, if that were true, you see, then Mendel's work, which was on peas, would need to establish that the psychology of the human and the psychology of the garden pea were compatible. But they don't. And yet the evidence stands. I have to come back to this one. Free call 0500 1053 89. Next, a crucial pressing transport issue. I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio.
DHL Worldwide Express. We keep your promises.
Experimental road markings ahead.
Tommy Boyds, Street Beat Symphony.
Street Beat Symphony with DHL.
The world's #1 international express carrier.
I've been driving in my car. Take your place in the drive. Who's gonna drive you home tonight?
Tommy Boyds.
Street Beat Symphony is an austere examination of each day one of the many aspects of the business of getting from A to B, which affects us all. Even if week in, week out, we only go from A to A, nevertheless, the things that are around us have to get around, and so we believe that this is something which touches each and every one of us. It might be have been a while since you were last on a train, or it might have been this morning. In my case, it was this morning. I use the trains a lot. I enjoy the trains. Apart from one aspect, which really annoys me, and I've never fully understood it. So if this is you, and you believe that there is some logic in what you do, please call. Free call 0500 1053 89. Because I'll tell you who drives me up the wall. It's the people who say they have to face the way they are going. They cannot sit with their back to the engine, not that we have engines anymore. They kind of hint that it makes them unwell or something or other, but the fact of the matter is, I don't believe it makes any difference at all, whether you're facing forward or whether you're facing back. People still get train sick and plane sick, And car sick if you're facing forward, because all car seats do face forward, even though on Captain Scarlet they came up with the idea of seats facing backwards because that way you couldn't get thrown through the windscreen. You get thrown back against the headrest if you had an accident with an oncoming. Free call 0500 10 53 89. I simply don't believe it makes any difference. It doesn't to me. I don't mind whether I'm facing the way I'm going or whether I've got my back to the way I'm going when I'm on a train. I don't feel any more or less nauseous. I don't feel any more or less demeaned. I do believe that an awful lot of people feel that if they've got their backs to the way they are going, they are somehow second-class citizens or second-class passengers. It's a particular type of person who, it seems to me, doesn't like to travel with their back to the engine. It's a person of a certain age. Is it a generation thing? Was there something, perhaps when people travelled by steam train, that made it genuinely unsettling to travel with your back to the engine? And if so, what could that possibly have been? Free call 0500 10 53 89. It's the kind of person who believes that if you eat soup, you should eat it with a proper soup spoon. I'm Tommy Boyd. I will say it. The only circumstance where I can imagine it's healthier to sit facing the way you're going than with your back to the way you're going is if you're on a stagecoach going across the Wild West. Because it seems to me, from the films that I saw, that the Indians would always be chasing you, and if they fired their arrows, it would be forward, which would mean that they would be more likely to go into the chests of the people who are sitting with their backs to the way the stagecoach was going. And that is the best piece of logic I can bring to this nonsense. Can you help? I'm Tommy Boyd. This is Talk Radio. There's a good argument for listening.
DHL Worldwide Express won't let you down.
TNT Classic Movies and Talk Radio bring you closer than ever to the all-time stars with TNT Classic Movies Hollywood Heroes competition.
Get ready for a big surprise.
Now you can experience all the glitz and glamour of Hollywood by tuning into Lorraine Kelly on Talk Radio. Every Wednesday from 11 a.m., a star featured in TNT's Hollywood Great Season is debated in Lorraine Kelly's show, and you can take part in the Hollywood Heroes competition.
Well, nice going, honey. You certainly hooked a big one.
Just think, you and a friend could be flying to LA, staying in a luxury hotel, and seeing Hollywood for yourself, even touring a major film studio. And TNT Classic Movies will also give you £1,000 spending money. Join the discussion about your favorite Hollywood stars every Wednesday and win the holiday of a lifetime.
Back to California, huh?
Talk Radio Hollywood Heroes with TNT Classic Movies, the cable and satellite channel that brings you the movies that made you love the movies.
The Millennium Bug will affect every business in the UK. It could affect your PCs, your entry systems, your office systems, your machinery, your barcode scanners, your fire alarms. If you run a company, it's your responsibility to be ready for the bug. Act now. Call Action 2000 on 0845 601 2000 for your free action pack. If you don't, in the year 2000, your business could sound like this.
If you're saving for a... Barclays can help you save for a... If you're saving for a... Barclays can help you save for a... If you're saving for a... Barclays can help you save for a... Are you getting the most out of your savings? Why not talk to a Barclays personal banker? Their unique new interactive computer system helps tailor your savings to your exact needs. So, if you want your savings to work harder, drop into your local Barclays branch today.
Computers make me kind of nervous. So when my kids told me I should learn the internet, I didn't want to listen. But when my clients told me, I had to take notice, especially when my competitors were already there. With BT Connect to Business, it was all pretty easy. I'm now bang up to date with the latest market news and even have my own website. That impressed my clients and my kids.
BT Connect to Business is designed to get the best of the internet working for you, and all for just £12 a month till the 31st of December. To get connected, call BT now on 0800 800 800.
Across the world, every day, DHL Worldwide Express.
Lucy calls from London. Lucy, you're on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hello?
Hello.
Lucy.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I think, well, I am a person that has to sit forward. on a
Facing
train.
forward?
Yes, I have to.
Why?
Well, I think it only makes a difference if you're on a train where you can see outside, so you've got the scenery going past you.
Yes.
I think we spend our whole life going forward. Very rarely are we going backwards, so therefore the brain is, it's conditioned to see things coming towards you rather than away.
Mm-hmm.
And thoroughly gives you a headache and makes you thoroughly sick. If I was on a tube if I was in the tube, you couldn't see much go past you. I don't think it makes a difference then. It's whether you can see the scenery outside going past you. It really disorientates you.
Does it? Well, my brain seems able to cope.
Your what?
My brain seems able to cope with
Well, we're all
scenery
different, aren't we,
going
Tommy?
away from me.
We're all very different. I mean, would you prefer to have somebody have your seat or have somebody very ill in front of you? I think you'd rather give them your seat, wouldn't you?
That's a reasonable point. Free call 0500 1053 89. I've flown on hundreds of planes and I've never seen anybody use the sick bag. And you don't get them on trains where 50% of the carriage is facing the wrong way, which ought to make them unwell. Stuart calls from Glasgow. Stuart, you are on Talk Radio. Good afternoon.
Hi.
Hello.
I was just talking, saying I can't sit the opposite way on the train. It makes me feel sick.
You can't sit with your back to the train?
No.
Why not?
It's just the scenery.
It makes you sick?
Uh-huh.
Do you get car sick in the back?
Yeah.
What is more likely to make you sick? Being on a train facing the wrong way or being in the back of a car?
The car, I think, more.
Right. Are you a sensitive boy?
I don't know.
No.
I can tell you.
Do they say you're a sensitive boy?
I've never actually asked anybody.
No. You can usually tell. It's the aunts who let slip. Thank you for your call.
Well, thanks. Right.
Street Beat Symphony with DHL Worldwide Express. Chris calls from Northants. Chris, you're on Talk Radio. Hello.
Hello, Tommy. I
Chris.
sit with my back to the engine because it's safer in a crash.
Oh, please. Please. Is it, though?
Yes, it is. I mean, the force of the G would push you back. I mean, if you're sitting towards the front, the force would push you forward.
Right.
So it pushes you back against the seat.
Okay. So you sit on a crowded train. You sit facing the way you're going. No, with your back to the engine.
Yes.
Okay. What about the people opposite you? If you were to have an impact, what would happen to them?
I'll put my feet up to stop them hitting me.
Oh, you'd have time to do that. You really think about these things?
Yeah, well, actually, I had the idea when planes had the middle seats sort of over the wing.
Yes.
And you had seatbelts on then, so nobody would hit you.
When you fly, you do notice where the emergency exits are, don't you? And if they're near you, you do think, oh, good. You
Well,
do,
yes.
don't you?
I used to be a stewardess, so...
Did you?
Yes.
Really?
And some of the crew seats are facing with the backs to the...
Yes, that's true, but they're not in them for very long, are they?
No, but they
You know.
are in if there was a crash.
Yes. Yes. So I was thinking, you know you have to strap yourself in a car nowadays,
Yes.
but we don't have to strap the things in the car down, do we?
No.
So you can be driving along, supposing you've got an estate,
And you have a dog in the back.
well, and a tennis racket and a car jack,
Yes.
and a 4-pint pot of paint.
Missiles.
Missiles. Did you see the new innovations catalogue on Sunday?
I missed that.
They've got this stuff you can get to spread all over the surfaces inside your car that things will stick to so they don't slide around.
Oh, that's a good idea.
No, it isn't. It's as ridiculous as most of their ideas, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it's not in a crash, but generally.
Yes. Thanks for your call.
Okay, bye-bye.
Street Beat Symphony with DHL Worldwide Express. It's the best thing they deliver on Sundays, that magazine. Johnny calls from Manchester. Johnny, welcome.
How you doing, Tommy?
Jim Dandy, you?
I'm lovely.
Far out.
Funky. I reckon it's
Wow.
all psychological.
Yes.
It's to do with, like, having the feeling that you're actually going somewhere rather than going backwards.
Yes. Man the Predator.
Sorry?
Man the Predator.
Yes.
Yes.
I thought all of that.
Did you know that men tend to speed up when somebody overtakes them, but women don't? And they reckon that's because of our predatory instinct. We imagine it's an animal coming after us.
That's the one.
And so we... because we don't like being chased.
Mm-hmm.
Apparently women go, oh, I might as well get eaten now as later. You're a psychologist, Johnny?
Amateur psychologist, I'd
It
say, yeah.
shows. Rory is on the line now, calling from South Wales. Rory, welcome to Talk Radio.
Hi, Tommy.
Hello.
It doesn't matter which way I sit on the train, but my brother has to sit facing forward so he can see the horizon out of the windscreen.
He likes to see the horizon?
Yeah,
How old is he, this boy?
14.
And he likes to look at the horizon?
Yeah, it's something to do with travel sickness, how you can see the horizon or not.
Yes. I did not know this. Can you tell me any more?
Or something to do with it being level and...
In South Wales?
Well...
The horizon is never level in South Wales unless you've actually got right the way down to Tenby.
Yeah, but it's not moving. It's not jumping up and down.
I take your point.
Right.
And thank goodness. Rory, thank you for your call.
Don't forget to subscribe and like. Comment too if you wish. Even slap your legs and make a purchase from Ann Summers. But don't do nothing.